Welcome to our Jackson home, Front Porch Discussions without the front porch. I'm here on the board, as always, by my co-host, Luke Pruitt. How are you doing this morning, Luke?
Jim, I'm doing great. Great to see you this morning.
It's fantastic. You know, we got a couple of great guests today, but before we do that, we got some really great news for listeners of our Jackson home. It starts with an I and ends with a tune.
That's
you
true.
know what I'm talking about, Luke. Our Jackson home is now officially on iTunes. What that means is that you all can download iTunes and just take it with you. You can put it on your iPods. You can listen on your phones. So our Jackson home is now everywhere.
And I just want to say that, that was a good line. I did not mean to cut that line off. Say that line again.
Our Jackson home is everywhere you are.
Oh, I love that line. So, I'm so excited because we've made listening to our podcast so far quite hard. It wasn't portable with YouTube, you know?
I mean, you'll still be able to listen to our stuff on YouTube, and you'll see the photographs and of our guests, and you'll still have that option. Of course, you'll always be able to listen on Facebook, but now you have the extra mobility of our Jackson home. Just take it with you.
I'm so excited. So I do want to give a shout out, though, to all of you who have bared with us during our YouTube era. That was an exciting time, and I'm thankful for the listeners that have made us want to even be on iTunes and to go there. So thanks so much for your support, and we're excited to make it more accessible for you. But, man, I'm super pumped about our first guest this morning.
Right. Our first guest today is Blake Pennington. Now, Blake has his own website, blakepennington.com. He's a personal trainer. He can work with you, in person, I suppose, and on video. And he's an exercise guru, if I will use that term. He's also the director of wellness services at Union University. Hey, how you doing, Blake? Welcome to our Jackson home.
Great to be here.
Fabulous. Now, you've chosen a great career in fitness and in health. Now, how did you come to choose that career, and why Jackson is a place to start that?
So let me start off from the very beginning, I guess. We'll start with the college years. It was, I guess, my freshman, sophomore year when I really got interested in business. I was on a spring break trip with some of my buddies, and one of my friends, his name was Josh, he had a book called The Millionaire Mind. And I will be honest, I used to hate reading. In high school, kind of sucked it out of me. There wasn't anything in high school that I was passionate about necessarily. I didn't know how to get to that point of finding something that you're passionate about. But I saw that book, and it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. So I asked him about it. I read it, and it changed my life in two ways. One, it got me to love reading again. It was an interest that I had, not necessarily being a millionaire. Millions would be nice, but just that there were people out there that had businesses that had found their passion and were able to make money doing what they loved and what they were passionate about. And then secondly was, as I was reading, I thought, if I'm enjoying this so much, what else is out there that I really would love reading? Because I really enjoyed just sitting down, being quiet, and getting lost in a book. And I'm also somewhat of an introvert, so as I've gotten older, I like to sit more and have my cup of coffee and have a good book. So originally, I was an undergrad in business management, and that really was what I spearheaded the next few years. Kind of had the idea, get married, move away, find a good job, a good business opportunity, and then kind of start my career from there. Get a house, white picket fence, dog, all that fun stuff. And I started out with a company called Tech Systems, and I worked in St. Louis, and it was an IT recruiting firm. And what we did was we recruited IT professionals all over St. Louis for about 100 different clients. And it was an incredible position. It was I was a recruiter, so we called it the pit. There were about 20, 25 recruiters. So we all kind of saw each other working. I was on the phone about 20 to 25 times a day, had about 10 to 15 meetings lined up every week. That was an incredible opportunity.
It sounds like Wolf of Wall Street almost.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. It was cutthroat. All of our numbers were posted on the board for everybody to see what our spread was, if you will. And mine, when I first started, it was at number 1, or it was at number 20, dead last. But that was kind of when I learned the fire in me, the competitiveness in me that I had, and I killed it over the next few months. Just made more calls, had more meetings, and my number slowly crept up. So as I was 2008, 2009 kind of turned around. That's when the economy slowly was fading, and we had hired a few too many recruiters. And what had happened was I was laid off from that opportunity 2 years into that. So it was a blessing in the sense that I don't know that I would have ever quit that job. It was something that I loved. It got more challenging as as there was less business. But what happened was I also became very selfish because all the recruiters were going after the same business. And then there I was, one of the worst and best days of my life because I was able to start something new. And this is where it kind of transitions into fitness. I found a book by a guy by the name of Dan Miller. He wrote 48 Days to the Work You Love. I was listening to a podcast that day, and I was listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast, and he mentioned Dan Miller, 48 Days to the Work You Love. And about a half a second later, I bought that book, and I fell in love with Dan Miller, but I also fell in love with a lot of what he talked about in the book. And Dan Miller essentially gave me permission to try something new. Because as a recruiter, your resume is everything. You want your resume to speak one particular niche, if you will, something that you are really good at. That's how you get the next opportunity. So I interviewed for lots of other recruiter positions, but one thing that I learned was that recruiters stay recruiters forever. They rarely are able to get out of that position. So I slowly found out that there are other opportunities out there. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine in Jackson, Tennessee, a mutual friend of ours, Jason Castles, who worked for Union, and found out that there was a position, the position of intramural director at Union. And I love sports. I've always been somewhat athletic, so that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And the book that I had just read kind of challenged me to think differently and discover and learn some new passions. So I took the plunge, and I've loved every second of it. I still work for Union. Right now I'm the Director of Wellness Services, but the first 3 years I started out as the intramural coordinator and assistant resident director, where I actually worked with Luke.
That's right.
So that was a fun couple of years. And the 3 years that I was the intramural director, I also got certified as a personal trainer because the intramural position starts at 3 p.m. and then ends at 10, 11 p.m. at night. So my schedule was a little bit different, so I had some time before the day started. Got certified as a personal trainer, started training. I had about 7 or 8 clients that I would train before 3 p.m. And that transitioned into the Director of Wellness Services. Now all of a sudden I was extremely qualified for that position because I was a certified personal trainer. I was in the middle of finishing up my master's in sport management at Union, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm the Director of Wellness Services and still a personal trainer. Do some online training as well. I've got a boot camp for moms that actually starts on Monday. So if you're listening to this after the podcast airs, in the next few months we will offer another one. So feel free to go to bootcampjackson.com and you can take a look at when the next boot camp is. So that's life right now. I'm in the fitness industry, and I love it. It's something that I will probably be in forever, whether it's 100% on my own or whether it's working for an institution, which I equally love. But I'm the director of recreation management, and I love the field.
That was fantastic. We need a wellness podcast, and I think Blake Pennington needs to be at the head of that. Blake's presence here actually kicks off a series on Our Jackson Home. Every month we'll bring in a different fitness or wellness person to just kind of discuss ways in which we can live healthy here in Jackson, Tennessee. As we all know, there's an obesity epidemic in our country. Never before has sugars and meats been as available as they are today, and never more have we had inactive lives as we do. And so Jim and I and the entire team want to really advocate for people we know who are at the forefront of leading healthy lifestyles here. Blake's a natural fit for that, one, because of his day job at Union as Director of Wellness Services and also as a trainer and kind of entrepreneur in the field. But he's also a Greek god. We often joke that he and Claire are just those people that you see them and you're immediately self-conscious because they're beautiful and in shape and all those things. But then they're funny and humble and all that too. So I would advise him on or advise you to go after Blake and pursue his services for two reasons. One, he's really good at what he does and he's smart and he's beautiful. We all want to look like him. I think that's am I hitting on him now, Jim? I think I may be.
Yeah, kind of. You got a man crush.
Okay, so Blake, tell us specifically what you're passionate about in the wellness field, and what you have as much passion for your job as anyone I know. So, what do you love about working with people in fitness?
That's definitely changed. It's developed over the last few years, and I will say that the first couple of years as a certified trainer, I was a really bad trainer. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that. I've always understood muscle development. I've always understood cardiovascular endurance. But one thing that I really lacked was the nutrition piece. You know, one thing that whenever I have a client sit down with me, I say that there are three things that we are concerned about. That's nutrition, so proper eating, and then muscle resistance, and then cardiovascular endurance. I can help you with two of those. We can do your cardio, and we can do your muscle resistance, but I cannot be around every second of the day to watch what you are eating. So that's how it's changed. Over the last 2 or 3 years, I've developed much more of an interest in nutrition. So that's really kind of on the journey that I'm on right now, is changing from being a personal trainer and kind of moving more into a coaching role. Okay, let's look at your lifestyle. Let's look at your psychology. Let's look at the biochemistry, and let's figure out what your neural pathways look like and see if we can tweak it and modify those things. I'm very fortunate right now because as the Director of Wellness Services, I get to intersect both of those passions. Personal training, which I only do before work and after work, but Director of Wellness Services because I have conversations like this every single day where I write programs for people. I create a safe and clean environment within the Wellness Center, the Activity Center, and the Aquatic Center. So I'm really just in my sweet spot right now. It's really cool.
Well, we're here this morning with Blake Pennington, located between the Tennessee and Mississippi rivers. It's our Jackson home. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our Jackson home, Front Porch Conversations. Without the front porch, we're here with exercise guru, Mr. Blake Pennington. Now, Blake, I know a lot of people may be listening to this, and when they hear personal trainer, they think sweating, pain, puking, go big, go home, people screaming in their face. And given where we are, Jackson, Tennessee, as you stated before, there's an obesity epidemic that seems to be climbing every day. If you're listening to this at home and someone's saying to themselves, well, I haven't exercised in a while and I have physical health limitations, how can a personal trainer work for me?
Absolutely. I think that you nailed a demographic right on, nail on the head. The obesity epidemic, right now we're at about 34% rate obesity. I did kind of a quick Google search, and Memphis is actually number 4 on that list. So we are right around the corner. And as far as someone who hasn't exercised, trained in a while, I would say if exercising isn't in your genes, if you don't have a family history of exercisers, if you will, if it doesn't come naturally, then what I would suggest is to get a trainer, to do some research, to find a trainer who is passionate about spending 2 or 3 months with you to get you to a place where you can train yourself. What I would not recommend is getting on the internet and buying something like Insanity or buying something like P90X or even recording Biggest Loser and taking some of their workouts because you know they work out 8 hours a day at least, which is crazy in my mind. So
you're hitting on safety here, and I think that's the main thing you're talking about, is getting started safely. And you mentioned some exercise reality shows that are on TV. What, in your opinion, are some safe and healthy ways people can start to lose weight, even if they don't get with you as a personal trainer? What are some basic, easy things they can do today to start on that road?
The first thing that I would say is to start slow. Don't look at it as a mountain that you're going to have to climb. Look at it as more of a mound, and to think, okay, what can I do today? You don't have any experience exercising? Well, if you exercise 15 minutes, if you go on a 15-minute walk every single day for the rest of your life, then automatically you've shaved off 2 years, or not shaved off, you've added 2 extra years to your life. So understand that from a cardiovascular perspective, you want to challenge your heart, because your heart is a muscle, and that muscle will get bigger if you challenge it. Our heart pumps 2,000 gallons of blood every single day, which is incredible to me. And if you exercise more, the heart gets bigger, and it doesn't have to work as hard, and it doesn't have to beat as often every single minute. So the first thing I would say is I would start slow. The second thing that you can do is don't do something drastic. Don't Google crash diet and try to starve yourself.
Right.
Here's what I will say to diets is that they do work. If you do a diet, you are going to lose weight, but chances are you are going to gain that weight back. And the reason for that is because if you start eating less than your body needs for energy, your body is going to start holding on to fat. Okay, and that's God's design, because in famine, that's one way that we are able to live longer until we can find food again. So, what I would say is, continue to eat good foods, but just minimize the processed foods and minimize the sugars. You don't have to eat less. You don't have to eat less calories. You just have to eat differently. So that would be the second thing I would say is not to diet.
Because it's not just about losing weight. If you just want to lose weight, you can cut off a body part. It's about being healthy, you know?
Absolutely.
So what is this and other things like you're talking about? If someone wants to join your website, is blakepennington.com, what sort of things can they see if they take that plunge and choose your personal trainer business?
Absolutely. For the last 5 years, I've been training clients locally. I train clients in their homes. I train clients in a gym that I partner with before work. What I'm really excited about, what I'm kind of making the transition to, is to online training. And that website is actually penningtontraining.com. You can go to blakepennington.com, and it'll direct you to that website. But that's one thing that I'm really excited about is the online training. So one thing about personal training is it's not cheap.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, 2 to 3 months of that. I mean, it is a hefty part of your wage, but it is important if health is important to you. So those are a couple other ways.
Plus, it's also good. I mean, if they have online training, they're doing it from the comfort of their own home, and a lot of people are self-conscious about getting back into exercise because there's a different sort of air and environment in the gym, and a lot of people, a good group of people may not feel comfortable, but with a personal trainer, you got that feeling like someone is out there and they care about me as well.
Absolutely. Online training, in my mind, is an incredible opportunity. Now, this is not a new thing. I mean, you've got home videos. There are tons of free resources on YouTube that you can go to. And the reason I love the idea of online training is because I can be their coach. Because the fact of the matter is, some people are going to need that accountability long term. It's just not something that they're going to jump up out of bed and say, man, I can't wait to exercise. I can't wait to eat really good. And that person needs a coach. And the way that technology is wired now, I have the ability to Skype, to do face-to-face with my client, to have that conversation. How did your week go? Tell me how your diet went. Were there any obstacles this week? And then we can go into an exercise session right there. Right now I've got 80 videos that are about 25 to 30 seconds on YouTube. And with Google Hangouts, actually, if we are both on Google Hangouts, I see them face-to-face. And if I want them to do squats, or if I want them to do lunges, or a shoulder press, or a burpee, I grab and drop that video onto the screen, and then all of a sudden they see me doing that exercise. So I can explain it, but then they can look at that video and know, okay, this is exactly what to do.
And what he means by burpee, folks, a lot of people probably already know this, but and correct me if I'm wrong, you start from like a push-up position, then you leap up, you kind of like do a jumping jack thing, and then you lower yourself down into another push-up. Is that right?
Absolutely.
See, if I did that right now, it would be more of a vomity rather than a burpee.
All right, so we've been talking on the micro sense about individuals and their health, and you kind of referred to family history. Let's dream for a minute. on a macro scale in Jackson, Tennessee. You're appointed by the city council to be the director of wellness services for Jackson, and you've got unlimited funds. What do you implement here in Jackson? What things would you love to see become part of our city?
That's something that I'm really excited about. I don't know that we'll get that today, but corporate fitness is something that is an interest of mine. So if they kind of made me the leader of that, I would probably do some research first. And I'll tell you a quick story. A little over a year ago, Claire and I, my wife and I, went to Fort Worth to visit another mutual friend of ours, Derek Carson. And we were in a hotel, and right next to that hotel in Fort Worth was this thing called the Water Gardens. It's incredible. We were able to walk through the water gardens and some really cool structures, some cool architecture, water everywhere, lots of steps. Now, that was really neat because I didn't really feel like exercising that day, but that was a cool place to go. So it turned into an exercise session because, it was just incredible. All the really cool things, all the cool water features. Another thing that was really neat about Fort Worth is when we were downtown, I could really tell that somebody cared about fitness and they cared about their community walking, doing exercises. Another thing that we did was we rented bicycles. They have different bicycle stations all around the downtown area. So got our credit card out, swiped it, got on our bicycles, went around a park that had a body of water there, and it was absolutely beautiful. And then the third thing is that night we were out at about 10 or 11 p.m. walking around, and there were families that had their little kids with them, 5, 6 years old, walking around, and it was just a really safe, clean environment. So I tell that story because it's inspirational to me, and one thing that's been awesome the last couple of years that I've seen in Jackson is downtown just revitalizing. So we've got the Lift Center, we've got that park that's kind of right around where the food market is. So those are some things that I would do first. Do a little bit of research and see how can we get people moving and how can we provide education to the community about good, healthy, whole foods that we can eat and the foods that we need to minimize.
Well, that's beautiful. I think something we've got to learn is maximizing the resources we already have. The parks in Jackson are extremely underrated. There's some great parks here that we need to take advantage of. There's things like Young Park with the bicycle trails down there. There's the trails across from Union University. Lambeth's an amazing campus to walk. And then, of course, you mentioned all that's happening downtown. I think that kind of Fort Worth effect is beginning to slowly take hold here, and we're so excited about that.
And he also mentioned corporate exercise, which is really something, especially the Japanese culture is good about. They have exercise before work every day, and that also would trickle down. You get adults doing it, you get families doing it, and it's all getting together. And if you get families out and about, just think what that would do for the downtown area of Jackson.
Absolutely, that'd be incredible.
Now, we've been talking exercise, why it's important, why you should go out there and start to exercise and nutrition. But I want to ask you, what kind of music or a particular artist do you have in your iPod when you're working out?
Sure. So that's changed over the years. When I was in college, I was kind of a hard rocker. I don't know what you call like bands like Disturbed and, those.
More Disturbed than Guns N' Roses? I mean, just...
So, I'm glad that I'm kind of past that stage. So now it kind of depends. Sometimes I listen to podcasts when I work out, but when I'm lifting like heavy weights, I can't listen to podcasts. I've got to listen to something that's going to pump me up. So a couple of bands that I've listened to recently, Gareth Emery and a band called Tritonal. It's kind of techno. Some people might think it's kind of weird, but I find
Euro Blake.
That's right, UK. So it kind of that's what pumps me up a little bit right now. But sometimes I'm feeling mainstream. So a little Katy Perry, a little Maroon 5.
We're going off the rails.
It's movie music. Because the last time I lifted some weights, I had the soundtrack from the Conan the Barbarian movie. Have you ever watched that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Lifting the heavy up above my head. All right. Now also, I got another question for you. As Luke was talking about, Luke talked about his man crush, and you kind of look like a Greek god, and how he wants to send you a Valentine next Valentine's Day.
I think you're identifying my earlier comments as the man crush. But go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Proceed.
Now, people want to know, do you have a guilty pleasure you indulge in? Food, television show, anything like that?
Absolutely. I know exactly the food indulgence, and that's pizza. So
Amen.
Yeah, so we've cleaned up our diet pretty good over the last year. So Monday through Friday, it's usually pretty clean, but we indulge. And almost once a week, we get some pizza. We might even go out and get some ice cream. As far as shows go, we don't agree on a whole lot, but one show that we found recently is a show called Chrisley Knows Best. Their family is a little bit different, but they have a lot of fun, so we've enjoyed watching that together.
You just spoke Jim's love language. If you go to www.rjacksonhome.com, you'll find the profile of all the R Jackson Home team members, and Jim has a lot to say about pizza.
Yeah, it's my kryptonite. I think it's all about balance, too, because you're not living to eat, you're eating to live, and I just love, if you do this, I love you to death, but if you're out there going, I only eat kale. I only eat organically fed beef that lives in the lower 48 states and is harvested in the month of July. I just think people can get overboard with it sometimes. You got to find a balance, and that's just me.
It's kind of awkward, and it makes social interaction with people pretty weird.
Yeah.
That is something. Blake has moved in and out of a lot of different diets throughout the years, and we greatly support the vegans of the world here on our Jackson Home. You have a great place in our community, but Blake has done a great job of really finding balance and being able to speak balance into people's lives. So thanks so much for being with us today. Is there anything else you want to address before we go?
Well, if anybody has any other questions or they want to contact me, they can do that. Probably the best place to go would be penningtontraining.com. That's kind of my hub right now. I do a lot of writing there, so I try to do a blog article about once a week, so feel free to sign up for that. And you also get a high-intensity interval training program when you do sign up to receive my blog post via email. Also, if you're listening to this and you're a mom, I'm doing a boot camp for moms. It actually starts tomorrow, Monday. But in the next few weeks, get on bootcampjackson.com, and you can figure out kind of when our next one will be.
Excellent. Well, Luke and I would like to thank you for coming in the studio today. And if you're out there, and if you're a mom and you want to get back into exercise, you can give us that email, that website address again.
Bootcampjackson.com.
Bootcampjackson.com. You'll go out and have some fun time.
Well, thanks for being with us this morning, Blake. Stick with us on Our Jackson Home. We'll be right back with Mychal Hunt. And remember, come back to Our Jackson Home each month for a fitness contributor. Thanks, Blake, for being our first one.
Glad to be here.
Welcome back to Our Jackson Home, Front Porch Discussions without the front porch. Hey, Luke, we got a special guest for our second guest today. Tell us a bit about him.
We're here with Mychal Hunt. Mychal embodies so much of the future of Jackson that we're hopeful for. He's a young, talented artist, as well as a passionate follower of Christ who has developed quite an ability at a young age to really lead and advocate for his city. So we're excited that he's here with us this morning. Good morning, Mychal.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, you were a part of our first ever event column for Our Jackson Home. You threw this huge New Year's Eve party down at the Carl Perkins Event Center. Talk to me a little bit about the idea behind that, who you partnered with, and how it went.
Cool. So the New Year's Eve event, man, it was just something that I had in my heart. I just wanted to do something for the city where, young adults, because I know people I ran with, man, they want to club it up, turn up.
For sure.
And so I'm thinking, what can we do, to really be the median between, going to church, but, it's not so churchy. And so how can we be relevant? That's my whole thing, being relevant.
Wow.
And so, and to get the city to sponsor us, man, get the mayor, get some councilmen on board. Next thing I know, the event's popping off. Man, we got radio stations promoting us, WBBJ doing interviews for us. I mean, everybody's behind us. And so, man, the night happened. We had around 600 come.
Wow.
That's way more than we thought. We were shooting for maybe 150 or 200.
Yeah.
Over 600 people came. Over 30 gave their life to Christ. And, I mean, it was an amazing night.
Wow.
And a great way to bring the year in.
Man, so who are some of the folks you partner with in that? You had several several people performing that night.
Yeah, for sure. My homegirl Karita Cole, she raps about the gospel. Had my guys, Mr. Cross, one of my guys, Lathan, came all the way from Kansas to bring in the New Year with us, and man, I just loved it. And I want to give a shout out to Mayor Gist, and I want to give a shout out to Councilman Dodd because they backed us up the whole way.
We need to, Councilman Dodd, I've been hearing so many cool things about just efforts he's leading up. We need to get him on the podcast soon. Sure. Well, nationally, there's kind of this cool uprising happening in the hip-hop community of really intelligent folks who are espousing faith in Christ, who are not just Christian rappers. They're rappers who happen to be Christian. At the forefront of that is, of course, Lecrae and a lot of his friends. He was on Jimmy Fallon last night just spitting and killing it. Talk to me about what's happening in Jackson with a lot of you who are doing the same thing.
Lecrae is a big influence to us, and he's opening doors for us that he doesn't even know he's doing. Wow. He's doing his thing. But even on a local, base, like he's opening doors for us to let us get inside of, certain churches and certain events. And so I thank God for Lecrae. But people who doing it on a local scene, a guy named Soldier Wilson, his new CD just came out, his album Transformed. And we get just many people who doing the thing down here. Sir Brave, Darius Person, he has a new CD coming out actually next week.
Come on, Darius.
14th of January.
DP.
Yeah, and so I just want to give him a shout out too. It's going to be a free download that you go on the internet and download his things for free. And man, they're doing it up big.
Wow. We'll speak real quickly. We're going to have Mychal back for a full podcast soon. We just wanted to pop in with him real quick and catch up on the event. But speak a little bit to kind of some influences you've had as you were kind of growing up. You're a JCM grad, right? And then kind of what you see happening for you in the next year.
Man, influences, I have to say, Stephen Moan and Blake Spann, huge influences on my life, and also a pastor down in Haywood, Andre Johnson. These guys have been huge influences on my life, and also Steve Patterson. And within the next year, man, we're going to be kicking it off, man. We're going to be, doing some Young Life things. We're going to be doing some Chaos things, and Chaos stands for Christians Hyped About Our Savior. And so we're just going to be doing it up this next year.
Wow. Well, we're so excited. Mychal embodies the spirit and truth of what our community really is. And so don't be listening to only the bad news out there. There's some youth and young men in our community who are leading a new generation to pursue good and true things. So thanks for being with us this morning.
No problem. Oh, my bad. I got to give a shout out to Area Relief Ministries.
Come on.
ARM all day. Miss Lisa Peoples, Andrea Hudgens, I love y'all.
All right, check it. Are you going to take us out with something this morning?
Yo, I can. Yo, let me rap my story to you, but I don't know how you're going to end up taking this. But I know Jesus Christ is real because I used to be atheist. I took what the world handed me full of profanity, but Christ planned for me, made me a king through Christianity. Devil, I woman should be full of lust and for fantasies, remove my personality. Jesus keep commanding me, yo, based on my history, me and sin got chemistry. But now I'm linked to Jesus Christ and it's just strictly ministry. And I deserve to go to hell. I'm talking about the worst part, but Jesus said, hold on, I can fix the worst part. I'm going to end it like this. Based on nationality, I should have been a casualty of sinful personality plus sexual immorality, and they wonder why I praise them. The tomb could contain them. They said Mychal Hunt changed. I say blame him.
Mychal Hunt. Find him. He's the man.
We just been to church.
Come on. You've been listening to R. Jackson Home.